Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. This is going to be the August 2024 kit release video. It is quite a bit late. Actually, we're about one box art away from being able to do September's too. But, be that as it may, better late than never. This month really kind of slapped. We have 4 new tools and 3 significantly reissued, modified reissues, and then, a few odds and ends to round everything out. But it was quite a bit of things in terms of new stuff, brand new stuff. So we have kits this month from the usual suspects, plus Revell and Mobius and New. So there's only 24 kits, but they are some brand new things. If you have not purchased some of these items and you weren't aware they're out, well, prepare to have your charge card smoking. All right, so over at round 2, got 3 kits. These are all reissues, of course. First up, you have the AMT Dodge Dart, the Chrysler kit car. So the Dodge version of the petty, Plymouth scamp kit car thing that came out. This is in a box art reminiscent to a 1970s reissue of this, and I believe it's the original issue of it in terms of the box art. This Dodge Dart version has been out in quite a while. The Plymouth version, of course, has been reissued not too terribly long ago. Overall, it's the same overall kit, just some different trim to make it Dodge versus Plymouth in the grills. And you pretty much know what you're getting here. Is this kit's been around and reissued numerous times over the course of the year since it was done. Then you have a reissue of the 1966 Buick Riviera GS. Now this is not like the original one. This is the AMT Ertl Mueller era kit from the 90s. This is a very, very nice kit. Like a lot of those Mueller era kits, this is a separate frame and then separate floor pan. It's got pad printed tires added to it, which of course the original issue of it back in the 90s wouldn't have had. New decals. It's got vintage box art on it, which is kind of weird because, again, 90s kit, it's weird when they put these things in like box art that looks like the rest of the 1960s annuals. I understand that sells and it looks cool, but it's still kind of weird. It's very hard for the new person to the hobby or someone who's returning to the hobby to know the basis of any of these kits unless they watch a fantastic channel like this one, because if you're old enough to have remember this kit when it was new and you're seeing this pop up, you have expectations that you might be actually pleasantly surprised with, because you're going to get a kit that's 30 years newer than what you expected it to be. But if you're semi unfamiliar with the round 2 line and the vintage box art on non-vintage kits, you may take a look at this, go, oh, that's old and I don't want it. So sometimes I don't think they do themselves any favors with that. And then lastly, this month we have a reissue of the 1960 Chevrolet Apache pickup. This is going to be another one in this custom cruisers line, which is you're going to see quite a bit of over the next several months and probably into the beginning of 2025. These are basically the Mueller era kit's B-sides. There was, of course, the 1960 Chevy pickup truck. It was reissued, I'm trying to think of how long ago that was. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago now, with the go-kart in it that was added to it. That was, in another kit a long time ago, because the 60 Chevy Apache truck was tooled up in the 1990s. There was a custom version of that came out as well, only released once, and it was never reissued. And this would be that. So this can only be built custom. It has a custom grill, a different set of wheels in it, and obviously some different decals, the Heartbeat of America things and those weird hood pods, for instance. Cool box art. For those of you who have figured it out by now, we're doing a podcast on the channel here. There's more of a live video podcast now, but eventually we'll get on audio platforms if and when I can ever get off myself and get those things uploaded. We're talking about a video here. It's almost a month late, so you can tell where I'm at time-wise with certain things. But at any rate, this is cool to come back if you're into this type of thing, because, again, you may not even know this exists because it's only been released once. back in the late 1990s and never again. So if you fall into the span of the last nearly 30 years, you may not know this kit was something that was ever around to begin with to know you wanted to buy. So there is that. So over to the Revell. Revell gave us this month their brand new 2022 Corvette Stingray Z51 Coupe kit. So this is, of course, brand new tooling. There's been no C8 model kit in existence. There are two versions of this kit in terms of boxings that you may see. This is, of course, the North America box. There's also a Revell of Germany box, the big long traditional European box that has a red car on the box. They are both the same kits. Now, the decal sheets are different in both of them, as they have been since Dawn Immortal for some reason. And it's really weird because this kit comes with the hood roof deck lid stripes, which are an optional package on the Corvette. And the German kit comes with the carbon. Well, it's not really carbon fiber. It's carbon look. It's a paint rather than actually being carbon fiber, but a carbon look roof, and that's not in this kit. So you kind of have to, if you really wanted to do any specific version of them and not pin yourself down one to the other, you kind of need to have both decal sheets, which probably is something that you'd be able to do over time as these kits, become a little more regular and they start getting parted out for parts on eBay. You might be able to pick up a decal sheet for the the North American boxing and buy the German boxing to get the other decal sheet and just build that one instead. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I don't understand why the two decal sheets aren't the same. The decal sheet in the North American kit does have license plates rather, they're decals, but license plates for Japan and Australia, which I guess shows you the market that the North American box will go to. It's going to end up in Japan and Australia, obviously, along with North America. It's a really nice kit. It is, from several people who have built this, a very good kit, engineering fit-wise, so that's great to see. You never want to see, Revell go backwards in anything. You want to see them go forwards, as the new ownership continues. So that is something that this kit does do, is continue forwards. I know these wheels that are in here are not everybody's favorite. It's kind of disappointing you only get this set of wheels. When they showed the tooling of this, it was a mix mash of this and the convertible, and they, nobody said anything one way or the other about what wheels you were going to get. There's also another spoiler that comes in the convertible. So if you were looking for the other set of wheels, they're in the convertible kit. They're not in this one. And I will say, with the going back to the decals for a second, you can't do the stripes, the center stripes, and the carbon fiber roof at the same time. That's not a compatible option when you go into the Corvette configurator. So it makes sense that those aren't both on the same decal sheet to a certain extent, but at the same time, it would have been nice to just have one uniform decal sheet that does everything and not have, chasing these model kits. Obviously, we all know, not the cheapest thing in the world anymore. I don't want to spend $70 to get two decal sheets. By the way, if you're looking at this and go, that's not a coupe, that's got a hole in the roof, it's a Targa. All Stingrays, all 2022 Corvettes are either a Targa top or with a removable hardtop insert or a convertible. One or the other. It's kind of weird in that sense that there's like an actual steel roof coupe, but it is what it is. I don't run GM, so, beggars can't be choosers. Over at Mobius, we got a brand new tool that has 3 versions out all at the same time, as well as a modified reissue. So the modified reissue first is from the Ford F-Series line, is a 1968 Mercury M100. So, as far as I know, this would be the only time a Canadian-specific vehicle has ever been kitted. I know there's resin conversions and things like that, but as far as an injection-molded kit, this is the first time a kit of something from the Great White North or Canuckia has been offered. Now, this has several new tool parts to it. The hood, the fender badges, as well as the tailgate are all stamped Mercury. Specifically. Also, there's a brand new set of hubcaps in this kit that are the actual correct, I don't even know at this point, 10 years into these F-Series kits, and now we finally get the correct quarter ton, half ton, however you rate the pickups in the 1960s and 70s. Finally get the correct F100 hubcaps after all that time, because the ones that have been in the kits have been like the F200 and above hubcaps. So that's cool. From talking to the folks at Mobius, this is going to be a permanent change to the tooling now in terms of the F100 or quarter ton, half ton trucks are going to always come with these new hubcaps. When they're reissued, they'll have the new hubcaps added, and the non-correct hubcaps will be consigned to the F250, F350s where they belong. So that's kind of a nice change. I'm not a big fan of this box art. It's kind of half-baked. Like, the background's real cool, but it's a weird 3D render of the truck, and the grill looks worse than it does in real life, which is saying something, because the grills on these trucks have always been kind of weird, sketchy things. So, at any rate, without going too far down that track, rather, Trode, that's what you get when track and road meet, right? There's that. The new toolkit is the 65 Dodges. So there are going to be 3 versions of this kit, and they all are kind of sort of the same to a certain extent. First up, you have Dave Strickler's 65 Dodge Ultra Wheelbase Funny Car. Now, this kit is going to share a significant amount of its mechanicals and things of that nature with the Ultra Wheelbase 65 Plymouth, where most of these parts are going to come from. Obviously, it's got a Dodge body and all the Dodge specific pieces, Dodge interior, and all of those things, but mechanicals and things like that are obviously shared with those other Ultra Wheelbase kits. This is a Model King version, so this is not going to be something that's going to show up like, well, I was going to say wouldn't show up at Hobby Lobby, but Mobius installed a Hobby Lobby in the first place. So just be aware that, it is going to be something you're going to have to source through a hobby shop or something along those lines, because Model King doesn't sell to like everywhere the way Mobius does in terms of like, finding them at, your favorite online retailers. Your favorite online retailer may not carry the Model King kits. So, be aware that you may have to do a little hunting for this, not so much in terms of, like, again, difficulty finding it, but just it may not be in all of the places that you would normally look for model kits. And then the other two, and these kits do share almost all of the same parts. It's really interesting to see what these turned out to be, because there wasn't a lot of information about them. We knew they were coming, had seen some test shots of a few things, but never were really formally, materialized in test shots that went around where you could really get a good idea what was coming. So first up, you have the A990 Superstock. So this is a sort of a streeted version of it. It has a exhaust component to it that puts basically a very weird single, very small exhaust pipe on it, which I assume you'd probably have to run in order to be street legal. You can't run open exhaust headers in in real life. This kit does have, of course, the A990 exhaust, and it's plumbed weirdly into this single exhaust. Again, it's like a streetified version of a factory drag car, so it's street legal, barely, and I think that's kind of cool. It's an interesting twist to what could have just otherwise been like a drag kit, and very cool. Shares a little bit of the content of the 65 Plymouths. There's like the I believe it's the satellite grill is in the chrome tree and stuff like that, so you can definitely see where these are sharing parts. And then the other kit is the 65 Coronet sedan, and this turned out to be not really like a factory stock version like I was expecting. This is more of like a day 3 version. It comes with a wedge or a Hemi, and it's very, very close to that A990. There are basically 4 pieces that are different. If you buy the A990, you get the flat hood from this kit and the one and the hood scooped version for the drag racing car. This doesn't come with the hood scooped hood. This doesn't come with the spaghetti header, the open exhaust headers from the A990. It has a regular basically a factory exhaust, and it comes with this grill. The A990 comes with both of them, but this one only comes with the 2 headlight grille. So it's very, very much not a factory stock car. It looks sleeper, right? It's got the dog dish hubcaps and all that, but it is very much not. It is like an A990, almost, kind of, sort of. If you wanted to buy a factory stock Coronet with like a 383 or a Slant 6 or something like that with the factory base trim Coronet interior, you are not getting that. This has the A990 door panels in it. It is, like I said, it's very, very close to being a, like, not quite not quite a street car, but it is. It's the Satellite, or no, excuse me, the Belvedere. Get my 2 Plymouths mixed up. The Belvedere's like a day 2 car too, where it's a little more sporty than a factory stock car would be. This is way more sporty than a factory stock car would be. So just know what you're getting when you buy it. Not any shade at all. It'll be interesting to see someplace down the road. Maybe they offer a Coronet 500 or a more factory car than what this is. But knowing that, know what to expect. That's basically that's basically where that ramble is going. Know what to expect when you're buying that, because if you bought that thinking you're getting a factory stock car, you'd be wildly disappointed in the contents. So over at Savena Jr, we're going to get a couple of kits this month. First up, on the historic side, you get Bobby Isaac in the 1971 Dodge Charger, the old K&K insurance sponsorship that Bobby carried through this whole time at Dodge. Very cool to see them get the licensing for both Bobby Isaac and K&K. This will possibly, portend future releases into the future with other things that they could do with it. But this was, an easy reissue, just a decal sheet and the same old 71 Charger. And then you have Kyle Larson's 2024 Chevy Camaro in the Hendrick car, the Kellogg's throwback from North Wilkesboro, so that's kind of cool. And then the other one is Ryan Blaney's 2023 Mustang. Now, all of us were told, there were not going to be any more 2023 Mustangs, and then there was a whole kerfuffle with the 2024 Mustang kit, which I believe, from what I'm seeing now, is more or less reserved, not reserved, but has been resolved. And sometime in next year, we're going to finally get those kits released. That's been sort of 99% of the way firmed up from what I've seen. The Camry's still out there hanging right now. But this is I want to say this is his Atlanta winner. No, it's Talladega, excuse me. It's Talladega. Well, yeah, Talladega. I'm saying Alabama in my head and saying Atlanta out loud. But yeah, this is his Talladega winner from his championship season. So if you were looking for that option, as it's a different set of livery than the 2023 Penske car that we all got at the beginning of 2023. I think there was one place that did homebrew decals for this car, but if you wanted a factory set of Cartograph, now you actually have that option. So that takes us overseas to Japan and the other Asian countries. So Fujimi get you 2 things. We'll just get these guys out of the way, because these are some pretty shoddy reissues, as they've been doing the last couple of months. First up, you have the Nissan Cedric Y30 in the high society thing. You notice the bottom panel there, ribbed for your displeasure, as has been. This has like a really cool 80s style TV aerial attached to it, I guess. It's got 4-spoke twists, which are actually the wheels that are in this kit, so there's that. But understand that this runs the same cruddy motorized generic Nissan chassis, well, just a generic sedan coupe everything chassis. We've talked about it a number of times over the last 3 months, and I'm frankly tired of discussing it at this point, because it's just so bad. It's why Fujimi kits got a reputation that they did, because you have so many things on the same chassis, 2 doors, 4 doors, they're not all the same dimension. They're all the same wheelbase. They're not all the same width. They're not all the same length. It's just, it's why a lot of, especially 80s era Fujimi kits are weirdly proportioned, because they all had to fit this plate that the chassis rides on, rather than it being the actual, you know, dimensions of the real vehicle. So there's that. And then the other kit is this, the Skyland RS Turbo 1986 Japanese Touring Car Championship Series car. I would buy this just to get the decal sheet out of it, because that's about the only thing that's worth anything in this kit. This rides that same crappy chassis, and this, as we've talked about in the past, is not a race car. It's a street car. It has a back seat. It doesn't have a full roll cage. It doesn't, again, are civilian wheels. They're not even race wheels. You know, this would have been center locks at this point in time in history, and these are 5-lug Civi wheels, and they're not even vaguely shaped correctly to be like, oh, well, you know, they're civilian wheels, but they look like no, they don't even look like the race car wheels. Both the Cedric and this R30 Skyline are you know, they have comparable kits from Aoshima. The Y30 Skyline is also old from Aoshima, and it's also pretty crappy. It's something that I don't think probably has enough oomph behind it, if you will, to justify a new one of them being made. This one I really would like to see Hasegawa tackle, because it would share a bunch of components with the R31s that they did. And obviously there's a racing lineage to the R30. It was the first thing that Nissan put into JTCC back when it formed in 1985. Will we see that? I don't know. I don't know. I have no way to say yes or no about that. But like, the Aoshima ones are still from this sort of time period, but they put a new interior into them for the race car versions, the Racing Spirit kits that came out in the 2000s. And it was like a platform style interior with separate door panels and a full roll cage and a full racing interior. And, you know, if you just sort of just closed your eyes and didn't pay attention to the motorized chassis, 2/3 of that kit was pretty good. And I would love to see, you know, Aoshima reissue those. In the meantime, yeah, you got that. Ugh. It's just unfortunate. So over at Aoshima, we got 4 kits this month, actually. Straight reissue is, and it's been a little while since this has been in the catalog, so this is getting a specific nod because it's new and hasn't been out for a while. It's a 2001 Honda Stepwagon, and this is the Modelo tuner version of it. Yes, there's tuner versions of small minivans in Japan. Of course there are. You can't build this as a factory Stepwagon, which may or may not be the worst thing in the world, depending on how you look at it. It's still a pretty cool little kit in terms of what it is. Again, it's a minivan. We didn't get this particular vehicle in the United States, so it is a JDM only thing. And yeah, it's been a little while since it's been out, so pretty cool. You know, just a standard Aoshima curbside. If you think of an Aoshima curbside, that, you know, pretty much plugs right into it. And then a couple of things from the this TV series, which just completely, totally, much like it did when we talked about this on the live stream, just slipped completely and totally out of my head. So now, in real time, while we uncomfortably sit here and stare at me, I'm going to look up what this was, because I know what it is, but I don't want to say the wrong thing, because Aoshima is currently doing like 2 different series of kits that are from their past, and this one, this one's not. Oh, there it is. Like, why am I not seeing this on the distribution list? So this is the Saiba Katsutsu TV show. This came out in 1979. The TV show did, and it is the 45th anniversary of the TV show, which is why we're doing these kits this year. There's going to be several of these. They did several of them, and they're going to reissue them all. They're basically just getting new box art and a new sort of series for them. They're just being refreshed, basically. New decals and things like that. So the Machine X, which you're looking at here, is an 82 Nissan Skyline GT Turbo. It's a pretty mediocre kit. It is from like the early 1980s. It's kind of weirdly proportioned compared to what the actual real car looks like, at least in my opinion. I had one of these, not in this boxing, but just had an 82 Skyline when I was buying a lot of Aoshima Skylines, and I ended up selling that kit. Was not impressed with it whatsoever, and again, I just don't think it looks much like the car, especially in like the front end treatment. And but you know, if you're buying stuff for this specific TV show anniversary, well, you know, that's out. And then there's the Super Z Gowing. So this was the car that the boss of the TV show drove. It's got machine guns that pop up out of the front, out of the front fender wells, and yeah, the gull wing doors and the little bubble light that sort of raises up out of the roof T-bar. It's a 280Z, and I really wish somebody did a good 280Z because it's been a while and most of them are pretty crappy. We're getting 240Zs out the yin yang between Hasegawa and Tamiya. It'd be nice if somebody did a 260 and a 280 to sort of make them, new tooling. But I don't know if those Fairlady Zs really had the same sort of support that the original S30 Fairlady Z did. But yeah, that's back out there. And then the new toolkit from Hasegawa this month is something that I have wanted. Well, it's not a new tool, I should say. This is a modified reissue. But this is something that I've wanted forever and a day. A lot of people probably are like, I could take it or leave it. Only from the aspect that if you wanted to build this prior, you had to sand everything off of a model kit. And who wants to do that? I know there's a whole bunch of people who would want to do that, but I don't want to do that. I'm lazy. And so I want this new DeLorean. So, yes, this was pretty much telegraphed when the new tool DeLorean was done for the first Back to the Future movie. There's going to be one for the second Back to the Future movie that's going to come out around Christmas time. And then I assume sometime in the first quarter of 2025, you're going to get the third one, the third movie installment, the one that has the railroad track wheels. This is a factory stock DMC-12. And as such, you don't have to sand anything off. You don't have to modify the interior back to stock. You don't have to try to, convert the rear hatch where the Mr. Fusion is back to an engine. Now it is a curbside. It is sharing the chassis, obviously, with the Back to the Future cars. So it is not, hyper detailed because that's not the point of the Back to the Future cars, obviously. But it does have a stock interior. It does have gull wing doors that open. I don't believe they're supposed to work. They're either open or closed. And it does have, I'm not a big fan of the engine insert necessarily, the one, especially the molded in that has no separate pieces. But it is an engine. There are window louvers on the back, so you can't necessarily see all that much of it. But still, I am at heart an American and would like to have an engine back there, but it's not there. And you know what? After, what is it? We're getting close to the 45th or the 35th anniversary of this. Closer to the 35th anniversary of this. I'll take it. I'll take it. I never figured we'd actually see this in kit form. I don't know what exactly spawned Aoshima into tooling new DeLoreans, but I will not look that gift horse in the mouth, and super duper excited for that. Over at Hasegawa, we got a few things, including new tools. So first up, a modified reissue, very, very mildly modified reissues. The Isuzu Gemini. This is a ZZ handling by Lotus version with the front arrow bumper because I see a box and I must fill it with words. This has a new 3D printed front bumper, as evidenced by the box art. The rest of this kit's been out. It came out when the Gemini kits originally came out 4 years ago. So just another version of those kits with a little mileage, a little value added with the 3D bumper. Assuming you like that 3D bumper enough to think that's a value add. You get just a straight reissue with some new decals. This is a Mitsubishi Lancer. It says Charisma GT because in Europe, for whatever reason, Mitsubishis were not sold as Lancers, they were sold as Charisma GTs, and that's what this is. This is the 2000 Rally San Remo. The third place finishing car is an independent Italian team in the San Remo Rally, so kind of cool. It's a podium car. And you also get another, speaking of tie-ins to TV shows, and but this is technically a TV show and a cartoon and a manga and a bunch of stuff. This is the Volkswagen Type 2 delivery van for the Yatterman in the Time Boken series Yatterman. So, Yatterman as the side of it says there. We had one of these come in already. It was the villain's car, and so this is the hero's car for the series. Type 2 van, it's a curbside, it's the straight Hasegawa van that's been when they do all of these crazy graphics, and so this just has crazy graphics added to it. And then we have the new tools or new tools. Yeah, you'll see in a second. It's very unique. I don't think Hasegawa's done this before in the sense of getting a new tool and a significantly modified version of the same tool in the same month before. So the new tool is this, a 1979 Nissan Sylvia. It's a 2000 Z SEX, because trim lines matter when you're building models, right? When everything's done by decals. So this is a brand new tool. This is well, it depends on how you look at this, I guess, right? I think it's a really cool late 1970s piece of JDM, like automotive engineering, right? It kind of looks like a Mustang 2 a little bit. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea necessarily, but the only other versions of these that existed were like an old Aimei that Aoshima has now, which is really not great. And Fujimi did one, which of course 80s Fujimi is probably on that same crappy chassis those Nissans are on. This is all new tooling, so it's curbside obviously, but yeah, it's so ugly I like it. It's one of those kind of cars, and it's so period 1970s that it's painful in some circumstances, but I really appreciate it. And then the modified reissue of that is the Nissan 240 RS 1983. And what this is, in addition to being a left-hand drive version of the car, is the homologated road car for the Nissan 240 RS rally car. Back in the day, as it were, you had to, of course, build 500-ish cars that were sold, commercially over the counter in order to enter something into a race car. So this has a stripped out front grille where that doesn't have the actual plastic grille for cooling. You sort of have the headlights just hanging out in space there. The big boxy add-on flares, a set of BBS style mesh rims. It's got a tail spoiler. It's got a completely totally stripped out interior for having just enough in there for creature comforts. I don't think this car is technically street legal, or not so street legal, but sold as a street car at the time. It was just made for homologation. It really wasn't meant to be sold. It was just made to serve the purpose. Of course, they were sold and they exist, and nowadays they are street legal and licensed and everything like that. They're kind of really pricey to get because there are so few of them, and there's such a huge suspension and engine and everything upgrade over what the Sylvia was. So that's cool. I like this. There will be rally car versions coming. Obviously, you wouldn't go through all of this if you weren't trying to make a race car and a street car like Hasegawa does with so many of their tools. And I really appreciate the fact that they did the homologated road car, because there's a lot of those that could exist over at Hasegawa that don't, right? There's no homologated Lancia 037, for example. That crazy rally car, there are street versions of that car. There had to be in order to race it. There's a homologated, now this is more of a B-Max problem, but there's and we won't get it because B-Max won't make civilian cars, but there's a street version of the Lancia Delta S4. That was sold as a licensable street vehicle because it had to be because of homologation. So there's a few, that's just off the top of my head, there's a few things out there that exist that would be really super cool if they could get, the cars of them, and so I appreciate Hasegawa's here. Over at Tamiya, we get the Nissan Fairlady 240Z Street Custom. So this is the modified version of the Fairlady ZG. Significant to this is the fact that this comes with left-hand drive parts, left-hand drive scuttle panel, and things of that nature, so you can build a Datsun 240Z out of this. Now, this front spoiler is integrated into the front clip. I know that's the thing that a lot of people don't like about this kit. It's the fact that it doesn't just have a regular front clip. It is a street custom. It's not meant to have a regular front clip. And I understand that it should, theoretically speaking, but it doesn't. So wailing and gnashing of your teeth are not going to help anything, because that's the way it is. You got Watanabes on here. You got metal inlets for the engine, for the carburetor intakes. So that's really cool. I just like the looks of this. I like it in blue. It'd be kind of passe to do box art, but I kind of like I'll put in a different shade of blue just so it's not the exact same thing, but I really like the blue. and the Watanabes, and I would build it as, you know, a US spec as far as the left-hand drive stuff goes, and I think it's cool. I think this will be a good, you know, a good follow-on seller to the ZG. ZG is a super nice kit, and this is a full detail kit, by the way. There is a full engine transmission in here. Obviously, I mentioned the metal inlets for the carburetors, but it's not just like the top of the engine, it's the whole thing, so that's cool. And then lastly, from the folks over at Nunu, a kit that is, I don't know, 5 years in the making or something like that. The Porsche 911 RSR in the 2018 Le Mans GTE class winning scheme from, obviously, the 2018 24 Hours of Le Mans. The Pink Pig, as it is colloquially known, as it is a throwback livery to the Porsche 917 Hybrid, which was called that because it's not quite a long tail. It wasn't quite a short tail. It was somewhere in between. Sort of a one-off body for that car. And it was painted up like a pink car with all the butcher markings on it to butcher a pig. And so this was the catalyst of this scheme that you have here. It's a very basic kit. I've got mine already. Very basic kit. Only has 3 parts runners other than the body and the, you know, windows and stuff like that. So windows make a 4th parts runner. Very, very basic kit. Nice decals as usual with the new stuff. It's a very, very basic model kit. There's no engine at all. The way it's tooled up, it looks like they were gonna put in a bottom engine piece. There is the top half of the transaxle molded to the chassis. The bottom half of the transaxle and the axles themselves are a separate part that attaches to that. And then there is a multi-piece exhaust pipe. It is, I don't know, 6 pieces because all the mufflers are in halves because God forbid we mold something in a way that doesn't have 90,000 pounds of seams attached to it. And those have like points on the end where they look like they should attach to the exhaust pipes or the exhaust headers from the engine. But there's no engine. So they just hang out there. Now, in fairness to this car in real life, it doesn't have anything showing on the bottom of the car because there is a gigantic aerodynamic under tray and the rear splitter. So you can't see any of it anyway. The only part of the engine you can really see is the exhaust pipes, like pop out of the back bumper. So I understand why this was done this way. And ultimately, it doesn't bother me that it's done this way because I don't care. That's one less thing I have to worry about painting, right? You don't have to sit there and detail out the engine and then put a big giant piece of plastic over it that you can't see the engine anyway. I think that probably is one of the reasons why this kit feels kind of light because a lot of that stuff doesn't exist. It's a very basic front suspension, very basic back suspension. My kit, at least the first copy I got, which was an early release, is kind of flashy, and I probably don't think that's gonna change. And that's been an issue with a lot of these new kits where it's a new tool and everything has a real heavy flash on it. But also looking at Hasegawa kits, they have the same sort of heavy flash problem. So this may be an engineering feature of kits for some reason. I don't understand why. I don't like that. The body has some pretty significant mold lines on it in terms of what you expect like versus a Tamiya kit. They're nothing that are like troublesome. Swipe away with sandpaper. It's almost one of those things where I'd rather have it that way because you don't like lose them, right? How annoying is it when you prime and paint something and you're going to like look it over for like a clear coat and you realize that there are seam lines in places that you didn't see because they were so fine, but now there's some paint on it and it pops because seeing seam lines on a white body is kind of hard. So in that way, it's better-ish. I mean, they're kind of a little more prominent than I think they should be, but it is what it is. Overall, and I'm spending a lot of time on this because this is something I've been waiting for 4 years now. This was announced in 2019. That's why it's a 2018 car, right? Because this and a Porsche 911 GT3 were supposed to come out at the same time, One was the Le Mans winner. One was going to be the 24 Hours of Nuremberg winner, the Manthe car. That GT3 car was done in a test shot, and from talking to some folks, that project is indefinitely and possibly permanently suspended for some reason. No one will say exactly why. It might be Porsche doesn't want to make it anymore after all these years, or whatever. It's a Porsche derived problem is what I've been told, and for some reason they were okay with making this one 5-6 years after the fact. But be that as it may, it's something that's been floating in test shots and production shots, and it was the joke was it was never going to show up because it was so late. What would be the point of making it? But they did release it. They did make it, and there are already 8 sets of decals for it, in addition to the 9th set, which would be the box decals. There are going to be at least 2 more sets of decals coming out of LB production. The 8 sheets are out of SK decals, and there will be 3 sheets of decals out of Decalcos, allegedly. Now, a couple of those will basically cover decal sheets that already exist out of SK or LB. So, what we'll see out of those, or if they'll ever show up, they probably will, because Decalcos, is a European decal company, and they're a different market than SK and LB, and being Asian companies, Hong Kong-based companies. So it'll be interesting to see. Also, looking at the kit parts, there's a second set of canards for the front bumper, and a set of what look to be fog light covers that are not used in the kit as it's built. And so that would mean, to me, of course, there will be another version of the RSR at some point in the future. What that'll be, when we'll ever see that, I couldn't tell you. For all the crap that it got when it was finally released, and it's been about time, and I don't even care about this anymore, they sold out of the first stock of them within a couple of weeks. They've had to actually reissue it to the point where it's going to be next month, or not next month, actually October, before they show back up. So they sold basically the Asian part of the production run like that. So for all the whining and moaning and complaining and whinging and whatnot about how it was too late for anybody to care, yeah, people cared, or they forgot to cancel their pre-orders, and now they have a model kit they don't want anymore. Be as it may, I'm happy to have it. It's another spot in that GTE GTLM kit series, and it fits in with the BMW M8. So that's and of course the Ford GT that Revell Germany did. So it fits into a slot of a bunch of different cars now that you can do almost, I would say, half of the. With the C7 Corvette, you could do half of the GTLM, or almost more than half, because I think the only thing out of that era of GTE and GT Le Mans that you cannot build a model kit of would be the Ferrari, because Ferrari's licensing is too expensive for anyone to deal with. So, anyway, guys, I appreciate your indulgence on the Porsche rant there at the end. But again, like I said, it's been a kit I've wanted for 4 years now, and I finally have it. And that's what you spent your money on, or will be running out to the store to spend your money on in August of 2024. See you guys on the other side.